The room was electric, every eye locked on the two figures at the center of the storm. Jim Jordan, known for his relentless attacks and fierce loyalty to Trump, leaned forward, his voice sharp and cutting through the tense silence like a blade. "Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez," he began, his tone dripping with accusation. "How do you justify your radical policies when they threaten the very fabric of this country?" The crowd murmured, a low hum of anticipation rippling through the chamber. Jordan's gaze was relentless, his words designed to unsettle, to provoke. But across from him, AOC sat unmoved. Her eyes, steady and piercing, met his without a flicker of doubt. There was a calm strength in her posture, a quiet confidence, that seemed to absorb every jab and turn it into fuel. The tension was palpable. Every breath in the room seemed to catch, every heartbeat synchronized with the rising stakes. Jordan's voice grew louder, more aggressive as he pressed harder, trying to break through her composure. "You claim to represent the people, but your agenda is tearing communities apart. How do you respond to the critics who say you're out of touch?" AOC's response was measured, deliberate. She didn't just answer, she dismantled. Her words cut through the noise, exposing the arrogance behind Jordan's attacks. The room fell silent, the weight of her truth hanging heavy in the air. The crowd's murmurs shifted, surprise, admiration, disbelief. This wasn't just a debate. It was a battle for the soul of the nation, played out in real time. And in that moment, it was clear. This was no ordinary exchange. Something far bigger was unfolding. But what happened next left everyone stunned, and the internet exploded overnight. Jim Jordan isn't just any politician. He's one of the most unyielding defenders of the Trump era, a man whose loyalty to a divisive former president has shaped his every move. Known for his aggressive tactics, Jordan has built a reputation as a relentless interrogator, bulldog in the halls of power who stops at nothing to protect his allies and dismantle his opponents. His style is confrontational, it's often ruthless, a reflection of a political landscape that has become increasingly polarized and unforgiving. This moment, this clash with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is far more than a simple hearing or debate. It's a microcosm of the larger battle raging across America. On one side stands Jordan, the embodiment of obstruction and division, fighting to preserve a status quo that many see as corrupt and exclusionary. On the other side is AOC, a fresh, fearless voice rising from the grassroots, representing a new generation determined to rewrite the rules. She speaks for millions who have been marginalized, ignored, or silenced. Her message is clear: justice, equality, and truth must prevail. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about policy disagreements or political posturing. It's about the very soul of American democracy. Will the country continue down a path of division, fear, and entrenched power? Or will it embrace progress, inclusion, and a future where every voice matters? AOC symbolizes hope, a beacon for immigrants, working-class families, and young people who see in her a reflection of their own struggles and dreams. Her rise has been meteoric, fueled by a fierce commitment to fighting systemic injustice and a refusal to back down in the face of intimidation. She challenges the old guard, the powerful interests that have long dictated the rules behind closed doors. Jordan's attack is not just a personal assault. It's a calculated move in a larger war to silence that rising tide. But AOC's calm resilience and sharp intellect make it clear she's not just defending herself. She's defending a vision of America that many believe is worth fighting. For the tension in the room mirrors the tension in the country. Every word exchanged, every glance shared, carries the weight of this ideological battle. It's democracy versus division, progress versus obstruction, truth versus lies. As the nation watched, the stakes couldn't be higher, but the real battle was about to begin. Jim Jordan's rise through the ranks of American politics is a story marked by fierce loyalty, relentless ambition, and a willingness to wield power without restraint. From his early days as a wrestling coach in Ohio to becoming one of the most influential figures in the House of Representatives, Jordan has built his career on a foundation of aggressive tactics and unwavering allegiance to Donald Trump. But behind the polished veneer of a staunch conservative warrior lies a pattern of arrogance, and a troubling disregard for truth that has repeatedly put him at the center of controversy. Jordan's reputation as a political bulldog is well earned. He has made a name for himself by launching relentless investigations, often targeting Democrats with a ferocity that borders on intimidation. His style is confrontational, designed to unsettle witnesses and opponents alike. But this approach has not been without its costs. Time and again, Jordan's tactics have backfired. Exposing cracks in his armor and raising serious questions, one of the most glaring examples came during the House Oversight Committee hearings, where Jordan's aggressive questioning was meant to corner witnesses into admissions that would support his narrative. Instead, his overreach often led to moments of embarrassment. Witnesses would calmly deflect his attacks, turning the spotlight back on Jordan's own inconsistencies. His attempts to paint opponents as unpatriotic or dishonest sometimes rang hollow, revealing a man more interested in scoring political points than seeking truth. Beyond the hearing rooms, Jordan's career has been shadowed by allegations that go deeper than mere political gamesmanship. Reports have surfaced accusing him of turning a blind eye to serious misconduct during his time as an assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State University. Despite multiple allegations of abuse by athletes, under his watch, Jordan has consistently denied any knowledge or responsibility. This episode has cast a long shadow over his public persona, painting him as someone willing to protect power and reputation at the expense of justice. His unwavering support for Trump has only intensified this image. Jordan has been a vocal defender of the former president's most controversial actions, from the attempts to overturn the 2020 election results to the inflammatory rhetoric that has divided the nation. In doing so, he has aligned himself with a brand of politics that thrives on fear, misinformation, and division. His public statements often dismiss facts that don't fit his agenda, replacing them with conspiracy theories and baseless accusations, a need to dominate the narrative at any cost. His arrogance blinds him to the growing tide of change sweeping through the country, a movement that rejects the politics of fear and embraces a future built on inclusion and truth. This is the man who came face to face with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a rising star whose courage and clarity would challenge everything Jordan stands for. A politician hardened by years of ruthless battles, Jordan was about to encounter a force unlike any he'd faced before. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's story is one of grit, determination, and an unyielding commitment to justice, a journey that began far from the marble halls of Congress, rooted deeply in the working-class neighborhoods of the Bronx and Queens. Born to a Puerto Rican family, AOC grew up witnessing firsthand the struggles of immigrant communities, the challenges of economic hardship, and the resilience it takes to survive and thrive against the odds. Her story is not just political, it is profoundly personal. From a young age, AOC understood what it meant to fight for a better life. Her mother worked tirelessly to provide for the family, instilling in her a fierce sense of responsibility and pride in her heritage. Education became her path forward, a beacon of hope that promised a way to break cycles of poverty and marginalization. She excelled academically, earning a scholarship to Boston University, where she studied economics and international relations fields that would later shape her vision for a more equitable society. But AOC's journey was never about personal success alone. After college, she returned to New York, working as a community organizer and educator, standing shoulder to shoulder with those often ignored by the political establishment. She fought for affordable housing, better wages, and immigrant rights, becoming a voice for the voiceless. Her work was grounded in empathy, in a deep understanding of the systemic barriers that keep so many Americans trapped in cycles of inequality. Her decision to run for Congress in 2018 was a bold leap, a challenge to a powerful incumbent and the entrenched political machine. Many dismissed her as inexperienced, a young woman from the Bronx with little chance against a well-funded opponent. But AOC's campaign was fueled by grassroots energy, a movement of everyday people hungry for change. She connected with voters, not through polished speeches or political jargon, but through authenticity, passion, and a clear vision for a future where everyone has a seat at the table. Her victory was historic, the youngest woman ever elected to Congress, a beacon of hope for millions who saw themselves reflected in her story. But with that victory came new challenges. The halls of power were filled with skeptics and opponents who underestimated her, who saw her as a threat to the status quo. She quickly became a target for political bullies like Jim Jordan, men who wield power through intimidation and fear. Yet, AOC's strength lies not just in her intellect or her eloquence, but in her resilience. She has faced relentless attacks, from personal smears to coordinated efforts to silence her voice. But each assault has only strengthened her resolve. She meets arrogance with grace, bigotry with truth, and intimidation with unwavering courage. Her background, her values, and her lived experience have prepared her for this moment, to stand firm in the face of those who seek to tear down progress. AOC's story is a testament to the power of hope and the belief that one person, armed with conviction and courage, can change the course of history. She embodies the spirit of a new America, diverse, inclusive, and unafraid to challenge injustice wherever it hides. Her rise is not just political, it is deeply symbolic, a reminder that the future belongs to those who dare to dream and fight. For a better world, with the nation's eyes fixed on her, AOC was ready to turn the tables. The room crackled with tension as Jim Jordan leaned in, his voice rising with each question, sharp and relentless. His eyes locked onto Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, trying to pierce through her calm exterior to unsettle the young Congresswoman, who had become a symbol of change. "Congresswoman," he snapped, "how do you justify pushing policies that, according to critics, would cripple small businesses and destroy jobs? Are you willing to admit the harm your agenda could cause to hard-working Americans?" The crowd shifted uneasily. Jordan's tone was aggressive, designed to provoke, to rattle. His words echoed through the chamber, a calculated assault meant to expose weakness. But AOC's response was different. She didn't flinch. Instead, she met his challenge with a steady gaze and a voice that carried both conviction and clarity. "The policies I support are about lifting people up, not tearing them down," she said. "We're talking about creating opportunities, ensuring health care for all, and protecting workers' rights, the very foundation of a fair economy." Murmurs rippled through the room. Some faces showed surprise, others skepticism, but the energy was shifting. Jordan pressed harder, his questions growing more pointed, his tone more confrontational. "But what about the national debt? The increased taxes? How do you respond to those who say your plans are reckless and irresponsible?" AOC's reply was calm but unyielding. "Investing in people is not reckless, it's necessary. Ignoring inequality and climate change is what's irresponsible. You can't afford to keep the status quo that leaves millions behind." Her words landed like a hammer, each sentence a precise strike against the narrative Jordan tried to build. The crowd's reaction grew louder, whispers turning into murmurs of doubt about Jordan's approach. His aggressive style, once commanding, now seemed desperate, even out of touch. The contrast between the two was stark. Jordan's bluster against AOC's composed intelligence. The room was no longer just a battleground of words. It was a stage, where two visions of America clashed, one rooted in fear and division, the other in hope and progress. Jordan's frustration became visible. His questions grew sharper, his interruptions more frequent, but AOC remained unshaken. She answered each challenge with facts, with empathy, with a clarity that cut through the noise. The crowd began to lean in, drawn to her unwavering poise and the strength behind her words. As the debate escalated, it became clear this was more than a political exchange. It was a test of wills, a battle for the heart of the nation's future. Jordan's attempts to dominate the conversation were met with a force he hadn't anticipated, a force that refused to be intimidated or silenced. And then, the single response, AOC changed the entire dynamic. The room was thick with tension, every eye fixed on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as she prepared to respond. Jim Jordan's relentless barrage had pushed the limits of decorum, his voice rising, his posture aggressive, as if sheer force could break her resolve. But AOC remained unshaken, her calm a stark contrast to his mounting frustration. Then, with a quiet confidence that demanded attention, she began to speak, and the entire chamber seemed to hold its breath. "Congressman Jordan," she said, her voice steady and clear, "you've spent this entire hearing attacking policies designed to help working families, while ignoring the very facts that expose the harm caused by the status quo you defend." Her eyes locked onto his, unwavering. "You claim to fight for the American people, yet you've repeatedly turned a blind eye to abuses and injustices that have devastated communities, including those you represent." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jordan's jaw tightened, but AOC pressed on, her words slicing through the tension like a scalpel. "Let's talk about accountability. You've defended actions that sought to undermine our democracy, supported efforts to overturn a free and fair election, and dismissed the voices of millions demanding justice. How can you claim moral authority when your record tells a different story?" The room grew silent, the weight of her words settling like a thunderclap. Jordan's confident facade began to crack. His eyes darted, searching for a retort, but none came. The crowd's energy shifted palpably from anticipation to awe, from doubt to conviction. AOC's voice softened, but her message grew even more powerful. "This isn't about politics as usual. It's about truth. It's about standing up for those who have been ignored, marginalized, and silenced for too long. It's about a future where justice isn't just a word, but a reality for every American." The camera zoomed in on Jordan's face, a mixture of disbelief and frustration. He opened his mouth, but the words faltered, drowned out by the swelling applause from the gallery. Social media lit up instantly, clips of AOC's response spreading like wildfire. Hashtags like #AOC wins and #truth over fear began trending within minutes. Political commentators scrambled to analyze the moment. Some called it a masterclass in political poise. Others hailed it as the defining moment of the hearing. Celebrities and activists shared the clip, praising AOC's courage and clarity. The narrative was clear. AOC had not just defended herself, she had dismantled her opponent's entire argument with grace and undeniable truth. Jordan's attempts to regain control only highlighted his unraveling. His voice, once booming, now sounded strained and defensive. The contrast between the two was impossible to ignore, the seasoned politician reduced to sputtering rebuttals, while the young Congresswoman stood tall, a beacon of hope and resilience. The viral moment became a rallying cry for progressives and moderates alike. It was more than a political victory. It was a symbolic triumph over intimidation and corruption. For millions watching, AOC's takedown was a reminder that courage and truth could still prevail in a landscape too often dominated by fear and division. As the hearing concluded, the energy in the room lingered, a mix of disbelief, admiration, and a renewed sense of possibility. The story was no longer just about a single confrontation. It had become a defining chapter in the ongoing fight for America's soul. The aftermath was immediate and explosive, but the story was far from over. The moment Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez delivered her devastating response to Jim Jordan didn't just echo through the hearing room, it exploded across the digital world, igniting a wildfire of reaction that no one could ignore. Within minutes, social media platforms flooded with clips of her calm, precise takedown. The #AOC shuts down Jordan surged to the top of trending lists, shared and reshared by millions hungry for a moment of truth in a landscape too often clouded by spin and division. Memes flooded timelines, capturing AOC's piercing gaze and Jordan's faltering composure, each one a sharp, witty tribute to the power of resilience over bluster. Creators from every corner of the internet joined the chorus, turning the moment into a cultural phenomenon. From late-night comedians to grassroots activists, voices united in praise of AOC's courage and clarity. Finally, someone who speaks. For us, one tweet read, "This is what leadership looks like," another declared. But it wasn't just the internet buzzing. Celebrities and influencers, many known for their outspoken political views, lent their voices to the chorus. Actors, musicians, and public figures shared the clip, amplifying its reach and impact. Their endorsements weren't just about politics, they were about validation, about recognizing a new kind of leadership that embodied hope, intelligence, and unwavering commitment to justice. Political commentators scrambled to analyze the fallout. Pundits on both sides of the aisle debated the significance of the exchange. But even some of Jordan's usual allies couldn't deny the shift in momentum. The narrative was clear. AOC had scored a decisive victory, not just in the hearing, but in the court of public opinion. Her poised dismantling of Jordan's attacks had resonated deeply with a nation hungry for honesty and integrity. The energy was electric, but also deeply polarizing. Supporters of Jordan and the old guard decried the moment as a political stunt, accusing AOC of grandstanding. Yet even their critiques only fueled the fire, drawing more eyes to the viral clip and sparking conversations in living rooms, workplaces, and online forums across the country. For many, this was more than a political spectacle. It was a moment of empowerment. Immigrant communities, working-class families, and young people saw in AOC's victory a reflection of their own struggles and aspirations. It was proof that the voices of the marginalized could not only be heard, but could rise above the noise of intimidation and fear. The ripple effect extended beyond social media and news cycles. Fundraising for progressive causes surged. Volunteer sign-ups for grassroots campaigns multiplied. And local leaders cited the moment as inspiration to push harder for change. The confrontation had become a catalyst, energizing a movement that had long sought a breakthrough. Yet, amid the celebration and the debates, a deeper conversation began to take shape. The clash between Jordan and AOC was no longer just about two politicians. It was a symbol of a nation at a crossroads. The viral moment forced Americans to confront uncomfortable questions about power, truth, and the future of their democracy. As the dust settled, a deeper truth emerged, one that would redefine the political landscape. In the wake of that unforgettable confrontation, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did more than just win a political battle. She reminded the nation of something far greater. Her victory wasn't simply about outmaneuvering an opponent or scoring points in a debate. It was a powerful testament to the enduring values that define the best of America: dignity over hate, service over selfishness, and unity over division at its core. This story is about courage, the courage to stand firm in the face of intimidation, to speak truth to power even when the odds seem insurmountable. AOC's calm strength showed millions that real leadership isn't about shouting the loudest or wielding the harshest words. It's about listening, understanding, and fighting for a vision of a country where everyone belongs, where every voice matters. Her example calls on all of us to rise above the noise of anger and fear that, too, often dominates our public discourse. It challenges us to reject the politics of division and instead embrace a spirit of empathy and solidarity. Because when we choose dignity over hate, we build bridges instead of walls. When we choose service over selfishness, we create communities that lift each other up rather than tear each other down. This moment also reminds us that change is never easy. It demands resilience, patience, and an unwavering belief in justice. AOC's journey from the working-class neighborhoods of the Bronx to the halls of Congress embodies that struggle. It shows us that no matter where we come from, no matter the obstacles we face, we have the power to shape the future. Her story is a beacon of hope for immigrants, for young people, for anyone who has ever felt marginalized or unheard. It's a call to action, urging us to stand up, speak out, and fight for a democracy that truly reflects the diversity and strength of its people. In a time when cynicism and division threaten to tear us apart, this story offers a different path, one of unity, courage, and hope. It reminds us that the fight for justice is not just a political battle. It is a moral imperative that calls on each of us to be better, to do better. And as we reflect on this moment, we see that the true victory lies not in a single debate or viral clip, but in the movement it inspires. A movement that refuses to be silenced, that demands dignity and respect for all, and that believes in the promise of a more just and inclusive America. This is the legacy of that day, a legacy of hope, resilience, and the unshakable belief that together we can overcome even the darkest challenges. And so, the story ends, but the movement has only just begun. The moment when Jim Jordan tried to grill Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez only to be shut down instantly wasn't just a viral clip or a political headline. It was a powerful reminder that courage, truth, and dignity still have a place in our democracy. AOC's calm, unwavering strength in the face of aggression showed us all what it means to stand tall against intimidation and fight for a better future. This story isn't just about one debate or one politician. It's about all of us. Millions who believe in justice, who refuse to be silenced, and who are ready to build a country where every voice matters. It's about choosing hope over fear, unity over division, and service over selfishness. If this story inspired you, if you believe in standing up for what's right, then don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your family, and your community. Join the conversation in the comments below. Your voice matters here. Together, we can amplify the message of courage and truth that AOC embodies. And if you want to stay connected to stories that challenge the status quo and celebrate the heroes fighting for justice, hit that subscribe button now. Be part of a movement that refuses to back down, that demands accountability, and that believes in the power of every individual to make a difference. The fight for truth and dignity is far from over. But with voices like yours joining the chorus, the future looks brighter than ever. Stand with us. Stand for justice. Stand for America, because this is just the beginning.